Welcome to Death, a Changing Industry, the podcast that explores the profound and often uncertain territory of coping with loss and grief. I'm John Adams, and today we have a very special episode for you. In this deeply moving and insightful interview, we sit down with Mark Irvine, a man who faced the unimaginable pain of losing his wife, Donna, in July 2021. Mark's journey through grief was a path no one chooses, but his strength and resilience are nothing short of remarkable. He wants to share his experience, provide valuable tools, and offer a sense of hope to others who may find themselves in a similar place of loss and heartache. Be part of this touching and enlightening conversation that will leave you with a deeper understanding of the human experience and the ways in which we can support each other through the most challenging times. So without further ado, let's get started with Mark's incredible journey and the insights he has to share on Death, a Changing Industry. So Mark, thank you for your time today in talking about this. And before we begin, I'm aware how important this conversation is for you and for me. Can you share a little bit about your personal experience of grief and loss after Donna passed away in 2021?
Absolutely, yeah. It's even thinking back to it now, John, it was an absolute blur. Donna was just incredibly strong, just a wonderful person. She started saying in sort of June probably, late sort of May, that she wasn't feeling well. We were going to the doctors, and in a very quick period she was finally diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4 pancreatic cancer at the beginning of June. And our sort of world fell apart, really. It's just like, what does that actually mean? We had no experience of cancer at all, obviously aware of it. And then for the next sort of 4.5 weeks until she actually passed, we just spent our time racing around, trying to keep Donna comfortable, seeing lots of consultants, just exploring all avenues of hope, really. Until they were no more, really. So it was just, and the children were just, we just absolutely focused on exploring all avenues of hope, really. Those weeks just passed by so quickly. Until Donna finally came home and passed away on the 6th of July. It just seemed absolutely surreal to me. Really, I think Donna had made peace with herself, but those weeks just absolutely passed by, and once she passed, we just went into the next phase, which was, I describe it as the absolute pea souper of grief, really. Just descended into a darkness, not knowing which way to turn, what I needed to do. I absolutely agree with the whole theory that you don't know until you've lost someone. You're in two camps. Either you're empathise, you know someone who's lost someone, or you've lost someone, and that is, there's no in between.
So it's a new world, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. I just remember not knowing which way to turn. What help did I need?
I remember first meeting you at your home, and you were completely lost. You were completely lost. But I do know that through time, not afterwards, but in that short space of time, you did find calmness. You did find control. During that time. That was apparent. And actually, you provided control and calmness to the kids as well, to Megan and Sam, and that was apparent to me as well. And I've always been in awe of how you've done that. Really. Your communication, which we'll come on to. But the focus of it all, obviously, was Donna, but actually how you created paths for the kids as well. Which was remarkable.
I think we live in a life where we think we can control everything other than the weather and things like that, but actually this is a situation that was totally out of our control. There's nothing we could do, and ultimately nothing that the doctors and consultants could do. So yeah, it was just recognising that, really, and trying to get back some control. And this is why I think we spoke at the time, we were just trying to catch our breath. and this is why we had a delay of, well, not a delay, but we purposely chose to have a break between Donna's passing and the funeral, just so we could catch our breath, because it just, I describe it as well as a tornado just ripped through our family. Everything you think you hold dear was just thrown up in the air. Donna was taken from us, and we were left with bits and pieces of our former life that we were going to spend months, years, and probably the rest of our life trying to piece back together. But it would never be the same. That's the
thing, it'd never be the same, but actually Donna's still part of your lives moving forward, and that's the thing that we keep coming back to in this podcast. We lose someone, physically they go, but emotion and love, it continues. You can't stop that.
That's a life, and my 2 children are born out of the love I have for Donna still. She'll always be their mother, and we talk about it regularly, of course we do, and do things that remind us of Donna as well. She was just incredible, and the impact she had on people, friends, sort of students. She was a teacher, so that still goes on now. So we are sort of 2.5 years later, and people still talk about Donna, and people are still doing sort of charity events for it. So it was a great loss to the world, which I'm sure is true for everyone, really. So
You mentioned as well that you deliberately, I remember we sat down, we went through the arrangements, and we spoke about allowing more of a space from when she passed away to the day of the funeral. And how did that help you, having more time? How did that actually assist you in getting in a better headspace and preparing you for the funeral?
I mean, a month, 5 weeks, whatever it was, it's taken years since, but I think it was just for us to, the actual practicalities of the funeral, and involved my daughter certainly choosing the right songs, making it absolutely perfect for her. We got one chance to do it, and we wanted it to be right and appropriate. Megan spoke at Donna's funeral, and I was worried about that, and it was just time for us to speak about it, as that's something you can really handle, Megan, which she did, incredibly strong. But I was worried as a parent that would upset her even further. So it was just getting the detail right, and trusting our gut feeling as a family, what we wanted, rather than people telling us what they thought was required.
What's expected
of us.
And that's the most important thing about funeral arrangements, and that's the role of the funeral director as well, is to actually listen, and to give the tools to people to be brave, to say, make this about your family. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks about what you saw 2 years ago at another funeral service. It's always so unique, isn't it? So you can't there's not one size fits all, is there?
No, absolutely. No, I think we were determined to do the right thing, and from the first time I met you, John, people listen, but some people really listen, and we got that from you straight away. I know your personal experience helped you understand exactly where we were coming from, really. So, we obviously trusted you, continue a family friend now, and it was just taking that time to gather our thoughts, really, and to begin to grieve at the very early stages. But I'm so glad we did that, rather than try and get the funeral done and out of the way.
Into it. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. So back to Sam and Meg and how you communicated to them. We've touched on that there, but could you talk through about the communication that you actually used with them? You spoke about how you made it personal to you, and you regrouped, you got together, the three of you, and it was about you as a family, which it always should be. But what actual communication techniques did you use? How did you speak to them? How did you tell them about what was going on? And what insights could you give to people who are watching or listening to this?
I mean, I look back now with almost sort of disbelief, really, but whilst Donna was still with us, she was reading up on all this. She was reading books about how to tell the children that, your mom's got cancer and ultimately it's incurable. So we had that conversation when Donna was here. We sat both children down and said, this is where we're at. This is what it means. And my daughter particularly, who was 15 at the time, she was like, you know, because we live in a world where things are controllable, have you explored every option?
Yeah.
Can we go to America? Are there surgeons there that can help? So these were the conversations we were having, but we've been totally open and honest with the children. We couldn't soften it because the result is the same. So we couldn't feel like we could say anything other than the truth, really.
Yeah.
So that's the way we dealt with it. We've just been totally open and honest with them from the start. That was the basis for then continued conversation with the children. And since Donna's passing, we'd always been a family where we talked about anything and everything. Communication is absolutely key.
I get calls now from people and they say, how do I tell my young children, you know, younger than what Sam and Meg were, how do I tell them that granddad's died? How do I tell them that someone's critically ill? And it always comes back to the same thing. And it's, unfortunately, there's only one way, and it's to be honest. It's to do it with kindness and to do it with love. But actually, there's no way around it, is there?
No.
We want to protect our children as parents and as people. We want to protect, but actually, it comes down to having honest conversations.
And the age of the children makes a huge difference. Obviously, their
age
ability,
appropriate.
To make for them the ability for them to comprehend it. Meg at 15 was, you know, her immediate reaction, like I said, was there must be something we can do. But there really wasn't, because that's what we'd spent the past sort of month, 5 weeks exploring every avenue until all doors were shut to us, really. So, but there is no substitute for that. And then just continued support, and my absolute focus has been and always will be to, you know, the children. Megan and Sam reacted very differently to Donna passing. Megan was very vocal, and Sam was quieter, really. So, and it was Sam I was a bit more concerned about, really, because his reaction to grief was different to mine, Megan's, and what I'd expect. But in time, I've learned that that's quite normal for a 13-year-old boy. But, it really worried me at the time. But
again, it comes back to grief, how there is no set path. You know, we have these stages of grief in the books, but actually, we're all unique. Our relationships with our loved ones are unique.
Absolutely.
And like you say, a 13-year-old boy like Sam is going to be different to Meg, and that's normal, and that's okay.
Grief is so unique to the person you've lost. The relationship you had with them, the experience you shared, the life you had up to that point. So the core reactions to grief, and like you say, the stages of grief, they're true of all relationships. But the reality and the individual grief is so different, really. So,
but again, how you treated both Megan and Sam, you just treat them with love, and that's all you can do. And that's the key message, really, is that all these paths and cycles and journeys, actually we need to treat everybody as individual and listen and just be there.
Absolutely.
And if Sam doesn't want to talk, that's fine as well, isn't it? And just being there with him, sitting with him, actually going for a drive, a quiet drive. I'm here. I am here, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Being present.
Had to resist outside forces of telling me you need to get Sam to open up to you. And it's like, I know my son, and this is not what he needs. And as he said, I mean, all I could offer him was my love and support. And at a time when he was ready, if ever he wanted to speak to me, day or night, I'd be there for him. And my concern was that it would come back in the future at a time he would least expect it, and grief would hit him hard and maybe be less able to cope. So I was very nervous about that and mindful of that, really. But we just pulled close, really. And even my sort of slightly wider family, we just, the three of us just chatted, sat down and talked. And we hear voices, we hear influences from outside, but we'll do what's right for us. So we just pulled closer than ever, really. And we'll always honour, one of the last conversations I had with Donna is that I'll take care of the children, I'll look after the children, and they'll always be the absolute focus of my life. So yeah.
Now, as I said before we did this recording today, before we started, I've always sort of watched you like in awe, really, how you communicated to them, how you adapted yourself to what they needed, and that's very apparent. And I think it's the outcome now is you can see it in the relationship you have with them now. The reason why you're so close is because of what you've built, what you've done, how you've treated them both, and how you continue to do that. So absolute credit to you, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good to hear.
You talked about external voices and people trying to help. It's not always useful. So my next sort of quick question then is, what support systems did you rely on in the initial days and weeks after Donna passed away?
I think I knew quite quickly it's not something that I could deal with by myself, and I would have to get some support. We received great support from Seven Hospice, and in the very early days I think we spoke to a counsellor, and Megan got some comfort from that. But I do remember that counsellor saying, it's too early for us to help you, and I just couldn't get my head around that at all. I was like, well, it's happened to us, how can you say?
Again, you can't call that, can you?
No. They're saying, maybe in 6 months' time we can help you, and I just sort of wandered around thinking, what does that mean? How can they not help us? But it is a situation that no one could help us. It's something we would have to go through the early stages of grief by ourselves, and reforming sort of relationships and supporting each other, the three of us initially, and then that slowly widened to my sort of immediate family and Donna's family and friends. But we just survived, and we did find help later on, but that was through friends pointing us in the right direction. I was still focused on the practical things of taking care of that, it was almost things I could control. It's taking back control of my life, dealing with paperwork, the practicalities of bereavement, really. I suppose that gave me some focus back in my life other than dealing with my children.
Yeah.
And I think my children, and particularly Megan again, didn't want to be labelled as a child who'd lost a parent, and I don't think there's stigma attached as such, but she was offered support at school, but she didn't she didn't bond with that person. So I thought, well, right, we'll move on to the next person.
It's very difficult. I remember losing my mum at 12, having counselling at that age as well. It wasn't seen as a done thing then as well, and it's about having the right fit and making you realise, it's just having someone to listen, I think, is the key part of this. Someone you can connect with. But it comes back to connection again, and I think that's how we move forward as humans, really. Creating connection, community, and then we can move forward in a positive way. But it's hard to find.
Much later on, we found support, again through connections of friends, particularly Donna's closest friend in Shropshire, Lucy. We got in touch with a life coach, Louise, who's just been incredible, really. And it was a perfect fit for us, really. We sort of knew Louise distantly, but she had enough knowledge. She was very keen to tell us that she wasn't a grief counsellor. But her skills, and she had knowledge of grief, though, and she was able to explain the sort of process of grief and the feelings that we had at the time, and how that was very normal for where we are. But she was able to put a positive spin on things, and that was so important for Megan and myself, really. So we'd have joint sessions with Louise, but I'd equally leave the room, and Megan would, and we had have our own time with Louise to explore the challenges that we were both facing, both together and individually, really. So it's sort of so that's just incredible, and she's continues to give us support now.
So it's ongoing.
Absolutely.
It's good.
So
very good.
Amazing.
Thank you, Mark. How do you continue to navigate the task of helping Megan and Sam cope with the loss? So as you move forward then into new territory, how do you navigate those waters effectively?
I mean, underlying it all is continued conversation, communication. We talk about Donna regularly. We reflect on the life we've had, and what is now our life that's to come, really. There aren't any great skills or things I can offer, really. There is no sort of silver bullet or light bulb moment. It's just that continued sort of conversation, really. This continued development of how do we effectively communicate with each other, really.
Yeah.
Megan thinks she's telling me one thing, I'm hearing something different, and vice versa. And I think ultimately we're quite alike, Megan and myself. So,
isn't it amazing though, that you're having the conversations about how to make communication effective?
Yeah.
That's not, we're not very good at that as people in society.
No.
We're not very good. So it's about how we identify, how we improve our communication as well, which is critical.
Yeah.
But I talk about a lot on this podcast about connection points.
Yeah.
And that can be from when someone dies through to the funeral and after the funeral.
Yeah.
And those are how we have contact with our loved one.
Yeah.
And that can help us move forward in a positive way.
Yeah.
So you've talked about what you did during that time of when Donna died to the funeral, and even down to how Megan spoke so brilliantly at the funeral service. But after though, what things have you done following the funeral? And we're 2 years on now. What have you done to help that connection still?
Well, I think there's some practical things. So we've, I said, Donna was head of a business school at my children's school. So I think we've created a focus. I've planted a tree in our garden. We've planted a tree at the school as well, the business school that she was head of. Had a bench installed at school and also at home, really. So that I think that gives a focus, really.
Yeah.
To our grief, and when the weather's better, I'll go out and sit on the bench at the bottom of the garden with our dog and have a coffee.
Yeah.
And that's been particularly helpful at key dates, anniversaries of Donna's passing, wedding anniversaries, and particularly tough days, really. So if Megan and Sam want to chat, we'll often go there and sit on the bench, really.
Nice.
And it's on a public right of way, and it's lovely to see it being used, really, by ramblers and walkers. And it's got Donna's inscription on it, and it's something she would have absolutely loved, really. It was just so befitting of Donna, because she was, she loved to go out walking in Shropshire, South Shropshire Hills, and we'd all be with her, and so it just felt perfect. But that wasn't something that came to me straight away. It was months later. This is perfect, really. Why haven't I thought of that before? But
again, though, you haven't rushed into anything.
No.
And you've got it now, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That space, that facility to go and sit and harness these thoughts.
Yeah.
Do it together and connect and have contact with her.
Yeah.
On those benches as well, I'm aware there's a QR code on those benches.
Yeah.
How does that work? What is the QR code for?
So this is for the Good Grief Trust. So we made contact with the Good Grief Trust. I mean, this is something that, I may have contacted the Good Grief Trust in the blur of the initial grief. I don't recall it, but very much their ethos is signposting people who are experiencing grief to get help, really. And I felt this is what I was struggling for at the time. So we have put a plaque on the back of Donna's bench, and that's got a QR code. So that absolutely guides you to all the charities that are able to help you, really, which I think is incredibly important. So
as we've discussed, since Donna passed away, many families will go through the loss of a loved one and a parent. What advice would you give to parents who are trying to support their children? So we've spoken about how being honest and just being present. Are there any other tools and advice you could give people, though, who are going through what you have been through?
I think ultimately you will move forward. I remember the darkest of time thinking, how do we progress from here? I've no idea what my life looks like now going forward. So it's I think, however bad it is, and it is really and incredibly tough, the ability just to move forward and just make a focus for your day, be that the children or achieving or getting some paperwork done and things like that, but also recognising when things are being said that are unhelpful, and protecting your children from that. And people try to empathise, but that's incredibly difficult if you've never experienced it. So people try and connect with you, which is great, but you get all facets of people, you get all types of people who want to be practical, which is helpful, people who want to try and empathise, maybe experiencing divorce, which I feel is very different. And some people who don't know what to say, and that's fine. And even to the point of people crossing the road when they see you come down the high street, I've had that, and you know what, that's fine. That's fine. I'd rather you do that than say the wrong thing. But at the time, that's really tough to take, because somehow you're not no longer friends, but people find it difficult to talk to you. But
it's a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame. It is a shame. But time passes, and I understand what that is.
Question for you then, because I think people watching this who are like, if they're in grief right now, it can be quite fearful as well to hear you say things will improve and get better. It's like, well, if things improve and get better, does that mean that I'm kind of like forgetting my loved one? Like, what happens? Because this pain also is very necessary. Because I love them so much. I don't want this pain to go away because I love them so much. So what advice can you give? How do you do one without the other?
That's a really good question. It's I think the focus of your life is, and you'll never forget, I will never forget the incredible times I've had, the life I've had up to that point. But you have to move forward. It doesn't mean forget. How can you? You can't. It's just, it's not one or the other. It's a blend, it's a balance.
And I've probably an unfair question, and that's what we spoke about earlier on, that you can't stop love, can you?
No.
And I think some people think he's just saying that. But it's so true. It is the truth that you can't stop love and emotion.
No.
It's the physical contact is what are the biggest struggle and challenges initially, because they're not there to speak to and hold and touch.
Absolutely.
But it's the emotion and love. It does not stop.
No. It just, and nor should it.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So. No, I feel the love for Donna personally, but through my children and the way that people speak about her still, and the experience they had with time with Donna. So, it's just a constant in my life. But it's a recognition that life has to go on, and from the children, they've been absolutely my focus. Certainly in the first 6 months, they were my absolute focus, and not intentionally, but I put my own grief to one side, but it was ever present, and I'd have conversations with Megan particularly, and that would stir my emotions. So we would sort of cry together, and it's good for Megan and Sam to see that the dad's not I'm not without emotion.
You're not mechanical.
No, I'm not a robot, and I'm not these things, and that just proved to them, as if they ever needed proof, that how much I love Donna and how much she meant to me, really, and still does. So, and that never changes. And still does is a key thing, I think, really. So,
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for your honesty, and I think there's some valuable lessons for us all. With that as well, based on your experiences, you mentioned about people crossing the road rather than talking to you, and I've spoken about this about education in schools to try and give people tools at a young age. And to help them into adulthood as well. What do you think society can do better to support individuals and families who are grieving, and especially when there are children involved? What do you think we can do better as society?
I think it's, we touched on it just before about signposting support. I think it's recognising that fundamentally you will have to go through a grief, process of grief. And that is by no means an admission of weakness. It's just a process that allows your mind time to process what's gone on. And my mind's still processing that 2.5 years later, and thinking back to people's reaction at the time. And I think, I was perhaps angry at the time. I was certainly angry at the situation we found ourselves in, and maybe people's reactions. But now I reflect back on that and thinking, well, of course they were grieving as well. And so life's too short to hold on to any negative thoughts, and this is the way we approach our lives now. If it has a negative impact on you, limit your exposure to that. And I'm still having these conversations with Megan and Sam, and be kind to people.
Yeah.
Because that really helps. I found that a real strength, to be kind to people, which I felt I was kind before, but just go out of your way. People breaking down on the side of the road, stop and help them, even in weather like this. I've done that on a few times, and it catches people off guard, really. People are like, oh, what's going on here? And it's like, don't worry, I'm just here to help you if I can. I'll get you some help. But I think it's really, I think people have lost touch with the personal touch, but being fundamentally kind to people, it goes a long way.
It really does.
And it makes you feel good as well, selfishly, you know.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do that, really? So
that's how we can change society, though.
It is.
In a positive way. Kindness is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and making connections.
Yeah.
And I mean, the immediate help that we had from Donna's friends and family, it was just incredible. And don't expect everyone to react in the way you'd want them to.
Yeah.
And even family, they're just my family, Donna's family, it's really, really tough. But you only need a small core of people who've got your back. And they bring different things to the mix, different levels of support. And I can count on one hand the people who really helped me in the darkest of days, and a blend of that helped me and the children, and that was enough.
It's on the podcast, we've spoken to other guests like Dr. Lucy Hone, and she said about how some of her clients she's looked after who have been bereaved get very angry because the people that she thought they were friends, they realise that they're not. But again, it's hard, isn't it? Because people aren't sure how to communicate.
Absolutely.
But I think it's about the depth of our friendships we have for people.
Yeah.
You then see, don't you, what depth there is. It sounds quite brutal and harsh, but is there an element of truth in that?
There is. I think I think in life we need a blend of friends and family.
Yes.
And that just shows itself in grief, really. But people's ability or not to empathise during grief, although it's disappointing, and I was angry, you have to let it go and and rekindle that friendship if you can.
Yeah.
And not hold it against that person, because they may bring something to your future life that you need. So you just have to let all those feelings go. It was, people have said, post-traumatic stress. I mean, that's a phrase that has been bandied around a lot, and I always associate that with a sort of a warfare environment, but it is so traumatic, and you have flashbacks and things like that. But I think holding on to those negative thoughts, it does you no good.
Let it all go.
No, got to, and focus on the positive and what's to come and what we've still got, really. I've got Megan and Sam, obviously, and building a new life, not a new life, a different life. Not the life I chose.
So in your journey through grief, have you discovered any meaningful rituals or activities that have been helpful for you, Megan and Sam?
I mean, day to day, we do things together, the family. We cooked together last night, we watched a movie together. I'm baking a cake with Megan this afternoon. She was baking yesterday. These are cakes that are Donna's favourite cake, and these are skills that she taught the children, and they're very sort of self-sufficient, really. So we do go on walks occasionally, hill walks, which is something Donna was absolutely sort of into. She loved the Shropshire countryside and the ability to get out and walk, and that was very evident through lockdown, really. We're very fortunate we can just walk out the bottom of the garden, and
it's all there for you.
So I think
being present, like you say, making a cake.
Present.
I was playing a board game the weekend with my kids, and it's just being together. Having that activity, which can be making a cake, playing Connect 4, whatever it is, and that's how we. And I know with Sam, you're going to the gym together as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In the early days, we were doing that. We built him a little gym in the shed, one of the sheds. So he's very much into his fitness. I think I always think I'm going to be present. Megan's away at university. I'm sort of I'm seeing someone now, but I'm very much. I won't leave Sam alone. I won't leave him here alone. I'll go out during the day, but I'll always be back, because is that the time he wants to speak to me, open up. I don't want his child to think, well, my dad wasn't present, and I'll always be present. I'll tell him, you know, push comes to shove, I'm going to be here, and I will be here, and that you're my focus. I tell Megan the same. So being present, and be available. But again, there have been situations where Megan's wanted to talk to me instantly, and I'm having a tough time. So I have to like protect myself and say, look, Meg, can you give me 5 minutes just to gather my thoughts? I've got something going on at work. I'm going to a meeting. I can't have a meaningful or a useful conversation to you right now.
Yeah.
Can I phone you back? But we'll certainly do it within 24 hours. And it's often, you know, it's certainly much sooner than that, within the hour or so.
Yeah.
But it's just recognising that I'm not in a good space to have this conversation right now, and what impact it will have on me, really. So, but yeah, being present is absolutely key, really. So.
And again, it's one thing saying it, but again, what you've done throughout, you've done it.
Yeah.
You've shown it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They felt it, and that's the key part of this, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
The communication, but then the action as well.
Yeah.
Action's a bit louder than the words, and the words are so important as well.
Yeah. I mean, words can be meaningless. I say this to my children, you know, you've got to back it up.
Yeah.
You've absolutely got to back it up and see it through. And, you know, and we have conversations any parent would, and we touched on this before the interview. Being a parent isn't saying yes, go for it, do whatever you want. To me, that's not. It is sort of explaining the options and what I consider to be the right thing. You've asked my advice. Sometimes the right answer isn't the easy answer or the easy path. So, but just be a good human being, really. That's what I want from my children, and, you know, positive feedback from people, say, you know, and so I'm just continuing what Donna and I started, really, and the values. So when communication becomes a bit fraught, it's just taking your breath and stopping that and saying, well, this isn't turning into something negative. We love each other. That's underlying everything. I'm not prepared to go down that route. We'll stop, reset, and have a better conversation.
And I think, again, sort of common thread throughout all this conversation is the conversations you're having, the tools that you use. If it's an uncomfortable conversation with some advice, or just basic conversation, just day to day, is do it with kindness and do it with love.
Yeah.
And I think no matter how difficult the conversation is, if you do it from a place of kindness and love, I think you're going to do it in a positive way.
And I'm still learning, John. I mean,
well, we all are. No one's got it sussed. Like, no one's got it sussed of those.
So. What are the triggers? I'm understanding what, you know, when I start using phrases, what do I need to stop? How to approach and reset and ask that phrase, that question differently, use different language. But underlying it all is making sure my children know that I've got their back. And it's all from a position of love. And, you know, I'll support them, but I will tell them when I don't think they're doing the right thing. So
it's important.
It is, absolutely. It really is. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mark. With grief, there can be misconceptions. So are there any common misconceptions that you'd like to address or correct for those who are watching or listening?
Yeah. People try and empathise with what you're going through, and that's incredibly difficult, and you appreciate the effort, but sometimes the language used again there can be quite hurtful, unintentionally, I'm sure. Well, it is. I have to hope that. But people's try and empathise, and this comparison with, I've been through a traumatic divorce, and you sort of understand where they're coming from. But there's an element of choice in that situation. It may not be your choice if you're the one being left. But in our situation of losing Donna, we had no choice. There was nothing we could do. I say to Megan, when she's having a tough time, I say, you'll go through nothing tougher than what you've been through. And always remember, we had no choice in it all. It was something that we had to face, and that was it happened to us. So I find that difficult when people make that comparison, because it's the finality of it all really is, you know, that person, you may not be living with that person, but they're still walking this earth, and if you needed them, I mean, I'm sure that people have really difficult relationships, but that person is still around.
Yeah.
Be a mother or father of your child. This is so final.
It's just totally. It's a different thing altogether, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And actually, right at the start of this, we discussed about how grief and loss is always so unique. And even like you know, when someone dies, it's very difficult. I have an understanding of where you might be, but I don't know where you are.
No.
And that's the key thing with this as well, isn't it? Just to be present, listen, be kind, communicate with love.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you can do.
Yeah. You get those fundamentals right. You're heading in the right direction.
Finally then, Mark, we mentioned like resources and signposting. Can you recommend any books or organisations or resources that have been valuable to you and that might help other people?
Yeah. I did watch lots of podcasts. I was again, this is quite early on. I don't think I was ready to take on board the information. I have bought books. One thing for me personally, so it was New Year's Eve of 2021, the year Donna passed, and that was the anniversary of when I met Donna back in 1994. That was New Year's, and my focus up to that point had been absolutely finding support for the children. And in a moment of sort of clarity, I thought, I need to do something for myself now.
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with my grief. I haven't properly explored it. I mean, I'd phoned all sorts of charities, but as we discussed before, I didn't really find a connection. And then a friend mentioned about Widowed and Young group, Way, and I joined that. There are groups dotted in each county, really. That's how they're organised, and it's people who've obviously lost partners who are relatively young at the time. So I think it's, from memory, it's under 50. So I joined that group, and again, this is my first experience of social media, and I've joined the Facebook group. I've never been interested in any of that, but this is where I can see the positive for that, really.
Yeah.
But again, it's the personal connection. So I was sort of messaging people, and then we organised a meal locally. I think there's a misconception that, isn't that going to be an awful... It's the group no one wants to be part of, obviously. We went for a meal and people said, how are we going to deal with that? That's going to be an awful experience. It's like, no. I've got nothing to lose now. I've lost, the person who's most special to me up to that point. So I don't know, it's an inner strength, but walking into a pub to meet a group of widows, people are daunted by that, but I was just like, I've got nothing to lose really now. It's and everything to gain really, and I have gained friends through that who I still speak to. We meet occasionally. They're in different stages of grief. You hear so many stories, how people have lost their partners, but in it there is a dark humour.
Yeah.
Because it's the toughest of situation to get through, and I've made some really good, who I consider will be lifelong friends through that group now.
It's that similar language, isn't it? The similar community. You're talking the same speak.
The feelings are the same. The stories up to that point are different, and the stories going forward will be different. But that shared experience of grief and loss and hopelessness, it's just so powerful, really. I have met someone through that group, Lizzie, who lost her husband a year before Donna passed, so she was a year ahead of me in the grief process, dealing with it very differently. But I hope that I help her and explore her feelings. I know she's been incredibly strong for me, and it's a whole different ball game then of, she's got children who are older than mine, but it's treading very carefully as well, because it's not a replacement for Donna. It never will be.
No, it can't be.
No, it never will be. And so again, reassurance and She's just fantastic, Lizzie. She's so kind, really, and she expresses her emotions different to me, but it's there.
Yeah.
I can see it in the conversations we have. But yeah, the Way group has just been incredible for me, going back to them. But for me, I know it's a group I will pass through, really.
Yeah.
I can't remain within that group because it takes its toll on me.
Yeah.
Listening to people's stories and people being bereaved and loss and all its sort of facets, really. So it's recognising that I have to protect myself as well, really, and I've got to save my energy for what's to come, the children's life, my life.
Yeah.
Lizzie as well. So, but it was incredibly powerful, and I'll always keep in touch with the friends, and I do already outside of the organisation, really. But yeah, I would recommend, and I have recommended people explore that, and it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But it helped me a lot, really. So.
No, well,
many good things to say. So,
and regarding resources and the advice that you can give at the Way group and other places where you meet people,
yeah,
I really believe, and I'm very hopeful that this podcast, that you have done, can help many people. Because you've helped me. And
you've been an incredible help to me, John, and my family, and this is why the children want to come and see you afterwards. It's the most powerful thing is people. Donna knew it.
Yeah.
I was more sceptical, really, but I'm absolutely taking up Donna's mantle. Yeah, and seeing the good in people, and where that becomes a negative thing, we'll just limit our exposure, really. And there are plenty of people. There's plenty of good people in the world, and that's been proven to us in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so focus on that. And I just want to give hope to people that there is a way forward. You can't see it at the time. We were in the darkest of places, like people are and still and always will go through that darkest of places, and you'll get yourself out of this pea super of a fog. There is a way out. There's life beyond grief and loss.
Yeah,
there's got to be.
No, well, thank you so much, Mark, for your words, your honesty, your kindness for doing this interview. And then from the person I met, in 2021, to where the journey that you've gone on. As I said, that's right at the start. It's remarkable what you've done.
Yeah.
And you're a testament to Donna's legacy as well, really. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you, John. Thanks very much. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers. Thank you.
A huge thank you for watching our podcast, Death, a Changing Industry. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have some fascinating guests lined up. Thank you so much.